What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Hello viewers, and welcome to Moosen Spiel's very first collection video. I am JD, and I will be presenting my collection to you guys, the viewers, as requested. Today we're starting off with the very first console I ever got. I was 4 years old, and it was the Christmas of 1992, and I got the Rob Robot Nintendo Entertainment System bundle. To this day, my original Nintendo still works. Also with the video game console, I got a smaller box of video games. 10 of them to be exact, and most of them were sports games. I was 4 years old, and sports were starting to become a huge part of my life. I was in baseball, basketball, bowling, you name it. All I wanted to do was play sports. Well, what happened when I wasn't able to play them? I was able to play the video games that I've gotten. So this was the perfect gateway to get me into this lifelong hobby it has become. And I hope you guys really enjoy it as much as I have. Starting out with Tecmo Baseball, it came out in 1989, one of the first games I got. And I'm a big baseball fan, I still am to this day. Now there aren't, as you notice right away, there's only 4 options plus a watch option. It's kind of weird. Well, there's no music to start off, so already we're kind of in silence. Luckily, they still keep the DH and not DH rule. You get to choose between the American and National League, but all the players only have first names, which is kind of odd. But they didn't have licensing rights for this game, which was also odd because Tecmo was known for having the licensing rights. So you're just going to have to remember who was good back then. So when we start off right away, you're automatically never the home team when you choose the All-Star Game option. And holy crap, it is hard as shit to hit. Makes sense since you're playing the All-Stars. As you can see, the visuals are pretty bland and there's not much else to this game. But the computer, their defense is amazing. Even at the All-Star level. Look at this! Now I know they want it challenging, but that's going a little too far. Pitching-wise, there isn't much to it. You have a fastball, as you can see here. Your other pitching option is a weird slider curveball that goes all over the place. You'll see that later. Now, defensive-wise, when the computer hits the ball, or your opponent in general, it automatically picks about every player in the field, and you just have no control over who you want. It's quite disappointing. And you have no sense of where the ball is going to land, or where it's even going to be hit. It's all way too fast. As you can see here, this is the examples of the controls. You're trying to move the second baseman out, but you can't. It's already hard enough to hit, so it's the extra base hits are pretty much relied upon you, the user, messing up. And it keeps happening. The computer will hit the ball, it's too fast, you miss it. It's a real shame, because the same thing seems to happen on repeat every now and again, such as here. Hits it in the gap, I move left, miss the ball. Well, at least the pitching gets better. You can possibly strike the guys out. So let's try a different mode. Let's try single player against the computer. Let's try the regular teams and not use the DH rule this time, just to see something different. As you can see right away, there's only 14 teams, and for some reason there's a California and Texas team. Come on, game, at least try and get some names in there. Houston and Dallas too much to ask for you? One thing of note is the teams are ranked from best to worst, St. Louis and Minnesota being the best since they were the teams that got in the World Series in 1987. The other weird thing is you don't get to choose your opponent. I choose Chicago, the computer automatically chose Atlanta. That's kind of weird. Once again, made up names with real-life stats, so it's up to you to know who they are. And now onto the game. Naturally, the computer can still hit the shit out of the ball, and it's even though it's a gap hit, they only get a single. The other thing that's really stupid in the final straw is the computer steals a base, you throw the ball, and the pitcher catches it. Next game, move on. Next up is Magic Johnson's Fast Break. Yes, it's a basketball game, and it's about Magic Johnson. What more do you need to know? Other than it was published and developed by Arcadia Systems. Have you heard of them? I know I haven't. The game supports 1 to 4 players, so you can plug that multi-tap in, or 4-score for the NES. And you would think that 4 players would be a standing ground to be tons of fun. For those of you who don't know, Magic Johnson was huge in the 80s. He was the selling point in basketball, so for him to have his own game is like Michael Jordan or LeBron James having their own game now. Well, let's skip the semantics here and get straight to the gameplay. You have 5 different skill levels to choose from, and for some reason I couldn't change off Rookie, so you have to start from the beginning. And yep, it doesn't get better than that graphic-wise. I mean, look at this. This came out in the late 80s. The system has been out for years, and yet it is just this 2-on-2 NBA Jam-esque type of deal. And you can steal the ball anytime your player comes in the vicinity of the guy with the ball. This is unacceptable for a basketball game. On top of the fact that it is balls hard to shoot. You can't make a basket. One of the 2 players doesn't even jump. He just chucks the ball up like he's passing it to the rim. The computer can only make a basket if they're 3 feet from the hoop. And again, the passing and the stealing is horrendous. Look at this. It's so hard to do anything. You steal the ball, you take the ball. If you want to be ballsy and take a 3-pointer, look what happens when you make it. Magic Johnson in a plain text gray screen pops up anytime something different or defensive fouls. He comes on the screen and bugs you. Defensive foul. At least there's different rules that actually apply to basketball, such as a backcourt violation. But besides that, this game is unplayable. I can't recommend this game at all. The third game is SNK Baseball Stars. And this is a Japanese baseball game that I had, and there's one reason why I had this game. And it's the revolutionary ideas of a create a player, a season mode, which you can actually make money, and a create a team. The game also had a save battery in which you could save all that information. But what matters to me really is the gameplay. How is it compared to what we saw earlier in Tecmo Baseball? Now, it's also not totally licensed, so you have a lot of first names. The upbeat music is very 8-bit, you could say. As I go up to bat and get the game started, I would love to talk more about the incredible options that Baseball Stars had and revolutionized. There just isn't that much time. You'd really have to check it out for yourself. The fact that an NES game has a create a player and create a team option and role-playing elements to upgrade is simply amazing. The customization in this game is incredible. I mean, you can change anything from the players' names or the team names to earning enough money in order to get default players to create, and even one of them is female, which is a first of its time. There is even statistic saving game to game in order to upgrade your players, much like a role-playing game. Also, you can actually hit in this game, and the computer's not incredibly frustrating. You can move around in the batter's box, the graphics aren't terrible, and yet you still get plays like this, which is very reminiscent of actual baseball, which is what the game is known for. Another strange aspect is this weird 10 to 101 mercy rule that me talking about it doesn't do it justice. It's very strange. And if you don't notice, there's another weird aspect to the batting. The timing takes so much practice. If you don't have this timing down, you will foul it off forever until the pitcher throws a sinker. So this brings us up to the pitching. How does it compare to other baseball games? Well, actually, you have a fastball, changeup, slider, and sinker. 4 pitches a pitcher in baseball would have. The other amazing thing is when the computer or the opponent hits the ball, you actually can field it normally. This was actually the major selling point in the game, not the creative options. You can also hit a batter. The ease of fielding is by far the most enjoyable part about the game. If you can't play defense, then you can't play the game. The ball doesn't go a million miles an hour when the computer hits it, and you always know who you're going to be. It's amazing. I recommend this baseball game. Coming out in November of 1992. I got this in February of 1993 for my 5th birthday, and I was ecstatic. This is one of my favorite games to this day, and there's a reason why I never bought another basketball game until the PS3 came along. This game I was in love with. It was probably one of my most played NES titles growing up. I can't speak more highly about this. All the NBA teams in the 1991-92 season were available. All the players, including Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. This game was made by Tecmo, and luckily it didn't turn out anything like Tecmo Baseball. Clearly, Tecmo Basketball was made with care, and they utilized the license as they should, unlike what we saw in Tecmo Baseball. The main title screen is incredibly simplistic, and really gets the point across. You got everything from a season to an all-star game choice, but you can't pick the players in the all-star game like the more popular Tecmo Football. You can choose from any of the teams in the 90s, and of course, I'm choosing the Utah Jazz for this video. It was my team growing up and still is to this day, and I had one of my friends help play this for the sake of this video. He happened to choose the Spurs, and I grew up in Texas, so why not? As you can see already, the game starts out with a crazy cinematic touch to the game. From the moment of tip-off, you are engrossed in the game. The controls are fairly simplistic and straightforward, and with the title at the top, you can see all the players on the court and who you're passing to, so you can be that NBA star you always wanted to be. Including a simplistic text screen for timeouts, you can also check to see all your favorite players from the early 90s, and you can easily sub in and out players. Full roster, full everything. What's not to like about the game? Well, due to the NES restrictions of 2 buttons, as you can see there, for example, the backcourt becomes a problem, passing to the player you want to because there's so many people on the floor. The shooting button is easily accidentally pressed instead of switching players. It becomes a problem for novice players. However, what is to like is the NBA rules are fairly realistic. Coming up, you will see what novice and advanced plays in the game seem like. Defense you can actually perform, unlike some other games, and rebounding and shooting takes some time to get used to, but you do eventually get a handle on it. Such things as a defensive pushing foul on shots is a good touch to the game, along with cinematic layups, and dunking makes the game super fun. You can actually block a shot, and if you just so happen to get that massive dunk with a star player, a short cinematic cutscene will really engross the player into talking trash to your opponent. Even the halftime sequence really gets the sports fan to enjoy what they like about the game. Nothing's better than collecting those stats and showing them off to your opponent, or even just doing better than the computer. On a final note, you might notice a lot of flicker as you play, but that's only because of so many things going on the screen at the same time. It was very normal from the NES. But on a last note of this fantastic basketball game, nothing was better than holding the shot for the last seconds of the game and putting that dagger into your opponent. I love this basketball game. I recommend it to any basketball fan or any sport ball fan. The last game is Ryan Sandberg plays Bases Loaded 3 by Jaleco. Now Jaleco is a Japanese-based company, and they were pretty known for making arcade games. So this baseball game is essentially an arcade port. There is no season mode, nor are there licensed players, even though Ryan Sandberg was fully endorsed on the game. But don't let that deter you. Unlike SNK Baseball, this is merely a pick-up-and-play baseball game at its purest, and it's really good. It's kind of sad that a lot of the modes aren't there, and you play for a high score based on how you play the game. A lot of the teams are related to the cities in MLB, but they're pretty hard to distinguish from each other, and you only get 3 stadium choices from the 3 major cities in the United States: Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. None of the players are real, they're all made-up stats, which is kind of disappointing, but when you get to see the gameplay in a sec, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So probably the only weird thing about this game is the fact that it is an arcade and you're trying to get that high score, so you're actually trying to get a perfect game as opposed to winning a pennant. So the first thing to notice is the upbeat music is quite engaging, and it changes from inning to inning. You have your basic pitches, you have your fastball, changeup, curveball, and slider, so the pitching is actually quite fun, which is actually kind of different compared to what we've seen so far. and your players take a little time to get used to the mechanics of hitting, but when you get it down, oh, it becomes a blast. Even the stealing factor is fun. How players actually run based on their stats. You didn't really see that, or at least I didn't feel that way in the other games. But one thing to notice is you can actually get home runs. And when you get that timing down, it's a blast. But I think that's attributed to the arcade style of the game and why it's so much fun. So unlike SNK Baseball and Tecmo Baseball, SNK had the modes, Tecmo Baseball had nothing that I liked. Ryan Sandberg plays is good. From the sound giving you the distance of the ball and how high it goes, to the music, to your pitchers getting tired. This is the most fun baseball game that I have on the NES, and I do recommend it to people, but if you're looking for something more engaging and baseball-like, I would pick up SNK Baseball. So those were the first 5 games of my NES collection. Sports have a special place in my heart, and they really got me into video games. The next 5 will be continuing my NES collection, and it will be like that until I finish off. So I hope you guys are looking forward to more as much as I am in making these. Hit that like and subscribe button so that's your way of letting me know that you like the content you're seeing. So this is JD here with Moosen Spiel, giving you the NES collection, and can't wait to show you guys the next one.